redeemed you. I have called you by your name.
Well, good morning everybody, and welcome again to our Time to Think spot. Well, I wonder what you've been thinking about over these past few days. I know one thing I've been thinking about are the things that I know are real and true, but actually they can't be seen. I wonder what sort of things that you can think of. Perhaps ask somebody who you're with at the moment what sort of things that you know are real and true, but you can't see them. Well, I wonder what you just thought of. I think things like electricity. Now, I know that to make things work, some things need electricity. You can't see it, but you know it's there. What about the wind? Now, the wind, we all see windmills, we see electricity power generators, those big with those huge fans on them, those big sails. We know that the wind is actually blowing them around, but you can't see it. Light. Now, science buffs among us, that's an interesting one because you can't actually see light, but you can see what light bounces off. Perhaps that's something for a science experiment later. Well, there's all sorts of gas that we know are there, but we can't see them. There's oxygen in the air around us that keeps us alive. We can't see it, but we know it's there. Now, one thing that I've been puzzling over and I've been thinking about is connected with this. Now, this is my board that I have in the kitchen. And the clever thing about the board in the kitchen is things stick to it. How and why? Do you know? You're right. It's magnetism. We can't see it, but we know it's there. If I take some magnets, let's just have a look at what we've got. There's all sorts. There's this one. This is a fridge magnet. Here's another two fridge magnets here that all stick onto my board. There's another special magnet here. This is a clippy magnet. That's quite handy, that is. That's quite strong. How does it work? And then there are magnets that we can use in experiments. So this is interesting because this is called a horseshoe magnet. And if we have two horseshoe magnets, they can stick together. That's all to do with north and south poles. If you don't understand that, that's fine. I like eating cake. Sometimes I don't understand actually how it's made, but it doesn't stop me enjoying it. But that sticks. If I turn them the other way around, so two red and two blue, they won't. I'm trying, but I can't do it. Some force, some energy is stopping them stick together when there's two reds and two blues, but turn it the way around and it sticks. Shall we explore a little bit more about what magnets can do? So, first of all then, there are our horseshoe magnets. Do you remember I said that actually if you put them together, look, they stick to each other. Turn it the other way. It's trying all the time, you see, to stick to itself. They're horseshoe magnets. I like this magnet. I've got this really strange sort of, well, it's sort of silly putty, and this is clever because this also, look, sticks. Can you see it? Trying to get to the magnet, look. Now, we know there that there's some sort of force, magnetic force, and we can't see it, but there is a way we can actually see it. Let me show you. If we put the magnet down, let's use the horseshoe magnet. We put a piece of paper over the top,
And then I've got some special filings, some special iron filings. And if we sprinkle those over, then we start to see the actual magnetic force. Watch. Can you see the horseshoe shape starting to come through? And you can see the energy, the magnetic energy, look, starting to make those shapes. Can you see the lines that are forming? I'll keep going for a while. It looks a bit like the lion that we had in we're going to have in our story in a while. And the more I put on, the more we can see the magnetic energy coming out of the magnet. Because the other interesting thing is, if I then move, watch what happens to the iron filings. See them all clumping together. You might have some magnets on your fridge at home. I don't know if you've got any iron filings, but you can see and you can test that energy. Another way of doing it, let's just take that off for a moment, is to see how many there we go, look, the paper clip sticks to it. Let's see how many paper clips we can stick to the magnet. How many will it pull? Oh, that's very strong. Oh, there's another one on. It just keeps sticking to it, look. Magnets are very clever.
Well, having looked at those things that are connected with our magnets, there are things that we can't see until they actually do something. That's what we've just proved. Something else I know that's true, but you can't see it until something happens, is actually being brave, being courageous. People of courage. Perhaps you can think of some people who have been people of courage recently. Last week, we also remembered the anniversary of Florence Nightingale. Now, she was interesting because Florence Nightingale believed that she was called by God to be a nurse. But she came from a very well-to-do family. They didn't like the thoughts of her doing such a messy job and dirty job as looking after other people. It wasn't right for her time. She showed a great deal of courage by sticking to a belief that what she was doing was the right thing to do, that she was called to do it. There are lots of stories in the Bible where people have to have great courage for what they're doing. And here's a story from the Bible about Daniel in the lion's den. Daniel in the lion's den. Daniel was far away from his home in Jerusalem. He'd been taken prisoner. But even in faraway Babylon, Daniel trusted God and did as God said. Every day he prayed to God, and God made Daniel wise, the wisest of all the wise men in Babylon. One day, the king chose Daniel for a very important job. That made all the other wise men jealous. They wanted to get rid of him. But Daniel tried hard to be brave. They couldn't scare him, and he never did anything bad or nasty, so they couldn't tell tales on him to the king. How could they get rid of him? They thought and thought. Then one of them had a clever idea. Daniel wants to please God even more than he wants to please the king, so this is what we'll do. And they whispered together. The wise men of Babylon went to the king. "O king, live forever," they said, bowing low.
We want you to make a new law. Tell everyone they must pray to you only, or be thrown to the lions." The king did not know it was a trick to get rid of Daniel, so he made a new law, a law that could not be changed. Daniel soon knew about the king's new law, everyone did, but he wanted to please God even more than he wanted to please the king. So he prayed to God, as he always did. The wise men of Babylon saw him kneeling at his window. Their plan had worked. Chuckling with glee, they hurried off to tell the king. "O king, live forever," they said, bowing low and pretending to feel sad. "We bring bad news. Daniel has disobeyed your new law. We saw him ourselves, praying to God at his window. The law is clear. Daniel must be thrown to the lions." The king was really upset, but the law could not be changed. He could not save Daniel. The lions were hungry. They roared for their supper. "I do hope God can save you," the king said to Daniel, as they pushed him in with the lions and fastened the door. All night long, the king lay awake thinking about Daniel and those hungry, roaring lions. As soon as it was light, he hurried back. The door was still shut tight. Everything was quiet. "Daniel! Daniel!" the king called anxiously. "Has God been able to save you from the lions?" He felt sure that those hungry lions would have eaten Daniel up for their supper. But Daniel's voice came back loud and clear. "Oh, king, live forever. Yes, he has. The lions haven't opened their mouths all night. I'm quite safe. Not a scratch on me." The king gave a great whoop for joy. "Let him out at once," he ordered. Daniel came out. He wasn't hurt at all. God had saved him from the lions. He had been very brave. Daniel overcame his fear. He prayed to God, and God gave him strength to get through what he needed to get through. I found a poem the other day by Jan Edmonds talking about overcoming fear. Let me read it to you. "Sometimes we don't feel very brave when we're all alone, when faced with something very new that leads to the unknown. We may have fear of simple things like wind or rain or height, or fear when we go to bed and turning out the light. We need to stop and think a while just why we feel this way. Remember that the bravest ones can chase their fears away. Sometimes something happens and then, without a thought, we find the very courage to do the things we ought. Bravery takes over and new confidence we find. The problem then is overcome and fear goes from our mind." If we're scared of something and we need courage, we can pray to God to give us the strength to get through. And that not only helps us, but it helps others around us too. I'm going to pray. If you want my prayer to be your prayer, join in with the Amen at the end. Let's talk to God. Dear God, please be with us wherever we are today, in our work and in our play. Make us and give us courage to overcome those things that frighten us, which we don't understand. Amen. And now may God's peace be with you all.
Do not be afraid, for I have redeemed you. I have called you by your name.